Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. Board of Commissioners, public meeting Tuesday, February 19, 2019. The time is 8:05. Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, notice of this meeting was published in the November 29, 2018 issues of the Nutley Sun, the Herald News, and the Star Ledger. A copy of this notice has been posted on the Nutley Town Hall Bulletin Board, and a copy is on file in the Municipal Clerk's office. Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Tucci.
Here.
Commissioner Evans.
Here.
Commissioner Petracco. Here. Mayor Scarpelli.
Here.
All present, Mayor.
Thank you. I apologize to the public. We had a couple of agenda items that we needed to discuss in the back before voting tonight, so we do apologize for us being a little late. Communications, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. Southside Grill has submitted an application for a social fair permit for their St. Patrick's Day event scheduled for Saturday, March 2nd, 2019, from 12 to 10 p.m. at 233 Franklin Avenue. Any motion?
Move it.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
The Nutley Irish Alliance has submitted an application for a social fair permit for the St. Patrick's Day Parade scheduled for March 2nd from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Move it.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
The Green Nutley community has submitted an event application to hold their outdoor farmers market from Sunday, June 16, 2019 to October 27, 2019 at 537 Franklin Avenue.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Grace Episcopal Church has submitted an event application to hold a motorcycle blessing religious service on Highfield Lane on Saturday, March 11, 2019 from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Move it.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
And that's it for communications, Mayor.
Reports of Commissioner Evans?
Thank you. I have a code enforcement monthly report for January 2019.
Commissioner Petracco?
We have our public safety report for January 2019 as well.
Commissioner Tucci?
Yes, I have a Parks and Recreation Shade Tree report for January 2019.
Bills, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. Bill list for February 19, 2019. Public Affairs, $103,446.26. Revenue and Finance, $2,560,522.98. Public Safety, $67,950.53. Public Works, $222,588.84. Parks and Public Property, $94,637.48. Water Utility, $5,696.82. Total payroll, $806,027.43, for a grand total of $3,860,870.34.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
That's it for bills, Mayor.
Public comment on agenda items only. Madam Clerk?
All persons addressing the Board of Commissioners regarding community concerns should approach the microphone and provide their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the Board, each person should limit their address to 3 minutes. All remarks to the Board and its individual members must be addressed to the Mayor. The Mayor may defer citizens' comments to the appropriate member of the Board. Dialogue between citizens and others addressing the Board shall be allowed unless the Mayor or presiding officer or the majority of the membership of the Board shall determine that the interests of decorum and/or the expeditious conduct of municipal business are being adversely affected by such dialogue.
Anybody wish to address the Board of Commissioners on agenda items only?
Amy Salento, 70 Newman Avenue. I just wanted to ask about the mixed use ordinance. Commissioner Tucci presented a white paper of the effect of multifamily housing Unfortunately, I wasn't here at that meeting, but I was able to read it online. Thank you. And I'm just wondering if there are any comments or thoughts from the other commissioners about that white paper and, you know, any kind of link or thoughts about the mixed use and density ordinance.
Well, Ms. Lento, they're mutually exclusive, the density ordinance and Commissioner Tucci's paper. And Commissioner Tucci's paper brings up a lot of valid points on our capacity to increase development, along with some other issues that went along with that. So we're going to actually amend the ordinance that's for passing tonight to 24 units instead of 28. So that's one of the issues maybe that will help you resolve that.
Okay, thank you. So then, when we get to that, you'll discuss what the proposed
Mayor,
changes?
if I might, and it's not even so much it's not so much the obvious things that we thought would be impacted by multifamily housing. What I called it in the back were some of the quiet impacts. All right, you know, the additional service calls, you know, the additional policies and procedures we need to put in place to deal with more people. So the toll that multifamily housing takes on the township is much more than just student population, which actually went down.
Saw that.
All right, and once we get the demographer's report, the latest demographer's report, I believe it's for 2018, all right, we're going to compare that to the white paper. And I think the white paper was, I know it was an eye-opener for me, and I'm sure everyone else that read it, because it brought to light a lot of things that we wouldn't necessarily have thought of. All right, but that is in fact part of the thinking that went into the amendment. And I know in speaking with Commissioner Petracco and Rogers and Evans and the mayor that, you know, we speak about this all the time to see how we can resolve different issues and what impacts different things have. So did it have a major impact on this density ordinance? No, but it's part of the thinking that went into the amendment that we're going to propose tonight, reducing that number from 28 to 24.
Okay, thank you. And I do want to note that the reports about the multifamily housing and the school children, there are a couple of the newer developments, 184 Franklin, which had some additional two-bedroom apartments, which weren't supposed to be there, and then the Kingsland and Passaic development. Those show 0 because those buildings were just opening.
Exactly.
So it will be interesting to see if there
What that
truly are
demographer's
no...
report presents us.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
Yes, thank you.
And
Thank you
that's a living document.
Sure.
So hopefully as we go along, we're going to be updating that, all right, and presenting new information as it becomes available.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners on agenda items only? Seeing none, let's move on to Board of Commissioner announcements. Any announcements, Commissioners?
I'm good right now.
Good. Ordinance introductions. Commissioner, you want to explain how this is going to work?
Yeah, just so
tonight?
one thing, so we agreed on this in the back. We're beginning the 2019 budget process, so that just want to announce that we agreed that the March 5th meeting will start at 6 o'clock, which has to be advertised to allow for a budget workshop meeting from 6 to 7. Okay?
Yep.
As far as the ordinance introductions tonight, we have 2 ordinance introductions that are related to the tax financing agreements for Building 100 and Building 200 on the Roche property. These are updated agreements that solidify our taxing position going forward. Our taxing position is very straightforward, that the taxes on those buildings have to provide for both the municipal as well as the school tax portion of the property tax bill. Under pilot law, there is a savings attributed to the taxes that we collect but have to pay to the county. They do not have to pay that tax. So in this agreement, we were able to negotiate that we would keep 25% of that savings here in Nutley as an additional tax benefit. The agreements also provide that there's an annual 2% administrative fee, and that there is an annual 2% increase in the taxes that we would collect as the minimum amount that we would collect. What's also important about this is that at the time of the transition of the Roche property, tax appeals were filed in court, in the tax court, for tax years 16, 17, and 18, where the assessed value of the property was being challenged. So even though we reduced the value of the site because demolitions, you can't tax a building that doesn't exist anymore, and for the change in use, that there was still a challenge out there that says that even with that, the assessed value was too high. As part of agreeing to these taxing agreements, those tax appeals have been withdrawn. And they'll be, and so once we adopt these at the next meeting after public hearing, we will also be withdrawing the tax appeals. So those are the major provisions that exist within these new tax financing agreements. As a result, we do have a public hearing tonight related to the old ordinances as a matter of compliance. They were introduced. We notified the public that there would be a public hearing. So to comply with Open Public Meeting Act, we'll go forth with the public hearing portion of the ordinance introductions. However, when it comes to adopting those ordinance, they will be voted down. They'll be voted no. So this way they'll go away, and we'll have what's left will be the two new ordinances that are being introduced tonight. So procedurally, that's what we're going to see. Do you want me to proceed, Mayor?
Yes.
So we have two ordinance introductions, number 3416 and 3417, relating to the financing agreements for buildings 100 and 200 on the Roche property. I move that these ordinances be passed to a second reading and advertised in the Nutley Sun together with the notice required by law, and that further consideration of said ordinance for final passage by the Board of Commissioners be held at its second reading on March 5th, 2019. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Public hearings. Mr. Genetempo, can we do one public hearing for both? We have to do individual public hearings.
I will do second ones, Mayor.
All right. So, public hearing on, or Commissioner, you could proceed with those two. Yeah.
As I previously explained, these are the old agreements related to the taxing of building 100 and 200. The major terms that are embedded in here have not changed in the new agreements. It still provides for full local taxation. So tonight we're having any public comment relating to the taxing agreement as it relates to building 100 on the Roche property.
Anybody wanting to be heard on ordinance number 3411? Seeing none?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
You gotta move it.
Yes. So move the ordinance.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner
No.
Tucci?
No.
No. No.
No.
And Commissioner Tucci, I'm sorry.
We're defeating this ordinance for purposes of technical.
Procedure.
Because we've reintroduced.
It's
with
just
the
a
appropriate
procedural
changes.
requirement. So,
So Commissioner Tucci, you're voting no, correct?
Commissioner Tucci's no, yes.
Commissioner Evans?
no.
Commissioner Petracco?
No. Are you sure it's a no?
It's a no.
Vote maybe.
Mayor Scarpelli?
No.
Thank you. As far as ordinance number 3412, by the way, it feels a little bit awkward because we normally don't do this as a board. If we're holding a public hearing, it's because there's been a lot of debate and we're actually ready to proceed. But in this case, we're changing the rules a little bit just to ensure compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. So 3412, this is the same financial agreement, but as it relates to building 200.
Anybody want to be heard on ordinance number 3412? Seeing none?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco? Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Move the ordinance?
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
No?
No, all right. I'm mixed up, guys, sorry.
Commissioner Tucci?
No.
Commissioner Evans?
Procedures.
No.
Commissioner Petracco?
No.
Mayor Scarpelli?
No.
All right. Public hearing on our density ordinance, ordinance number 3414. Open the public hearing, and Mr. Ricky, will you want to give a little background on the ordinance?
For the record, Paul Ricky, I'm a licensed professional planner in the state. Do I need to be sworn at this level here? No. Okay.
No.
Just a little bit of background. I was asked to really help in the codification of really what's been envisioned by the Board of Commissioners in terms of, number one, cleaning up the ordinance and to applying density where residential is permitted as part of mixed-use development in the downtown. But the ordinance, in addition to that, for this to be undertaken, it does revise several sections of the township's ordinance dealing with definitions, general regulations, that's the use regulations, and largely what's occurring at the use level is that this was written in a manner to be ultra clear as to where things are permitted, where they're not. Definitions are written to be ultra clear as to the types of land uses and where they can be permitted. So some of this, from a very technical standpoint, I would call it as cleaning up of the ordinance for those purposes. And if everyone has a copy of the ordinance, I'm not sure if I'm going to go through this point by point, Mayor, but it examples where mixed-use buildings are permitted, and there's areas where mixed-use buildings are permitted without residential, and even that's the case, the code goes on to further elaborate residential prohibited. So it's meant to be ultra clear. There's a new definition of mixed use that's provided in the code for this purpose as well. And also, I think some of the key provisions in the code, number one, what was happening, and just so if everyone's aware, as needed, I represent the planning and the zoning board. And I work with the zoning officer on a daily basis. So I kind of understand how they look at the ordinance, how they apply the ordinance. And part of this is to clarify how the ordinance was originally structured. There's a schedule of regulations in the back. And I don't want to get into too much detail, but those regulations are very clear as to the height of a building, the setbacks of a building, how much of the building can cover of the lot, and et cetera. But there was a separate section called the mixed use section. And in some areas, these uses were in conflict with each other. So we clarified that, and we took away those points of conflict so that the zoning officer has clear direction from the Board of Commissioners on how the ordinance should be applied. And that was very important because at one point, certain areas weren't clear, and that was a difficult position for the boards to be in. Mayor referred to this as the density ordinance, and it does apply right now. I just heard tonight there may be a change, but right now, in the three zones where density are permitted, in the B3 zone, it currently, as my ordinance shows, 28 units per acre, and the B1 and B2 zones, that's 17.42 units per acre. That's 17.42. How'd you get a crazy number like that? That's taking, historically, the ordinance allowed for development to take place in a residential capacity. If you had 2,500 square feet, each 2,500 square feet, you could have one residential apartment on the upper floor. Now, this ordinance just translates that into a number that's largely done for consistency purposes with the density provision that was added to the B3 district that's currently at 28 units per acre per my reading.
24 as of today.
Now it's 24 units per acre. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Paul, and just one statement, because I was actually the one that brought that up because that caught my eye, the 28 units per acre. And the thing that I just want to be clear on, even that we're knocking it down to 24, people are still able to go for a variance and, change that number if needed for an application, and then there would be a vote. True?
They could, but once you start to apply a new ordinance, I think it's I think they would be hard pressed to be seeking a variance right away from a brand-new zoning ordinance.
I think what the commissioner's saying, and I don't want to speak to you, is we're not encouraging that.
Yeah. Right.
But that's always an option that someone can exercise, correct?
It is an option, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly, thank you, Commissioner.
The ordinance, I mean, another issue that came up, the ordinance, I think is an excellent standard. It applies that in the mixed-use building, at least 30% of that building has to be for retail or office, or actually a true mixed use. Often, sometimes today, parking is one of the biggest issues in terms of for someone to try to provide a mixed-use building for residential or commercial, provide sufficient parking. So often, you would see applications where they would line the building in the frontage with very, for lack of a better word, a very shallow commercial space. And this ordinance encourages or requires that there be a significant commercial space on the ground floor of each mixed-use building. Also, it establishes minimum bedroom sizes for the units, 925 square feet for one bedroom and 1,175 square feet for a two-bedroom. So these are, in the industry today, these are, they're not very large, they're definitely not small, but there would be on the larger side of where you're seeing this type of development today. It also, it's clear that sometimes, if any members come to the planning board meetings, developers can, I'll use it nicely, get cute, and they'll propose units that are one bedroom with a den, okay? And you can talk to an architect what's considered a den. When you start seeing a closet, a door on a room, that's not really a den, right? So and that's an interpretation of the building code traditionally, rather the zoning code. Here, there's a provision that requires any building that can be contemplated like a den that's over 69 square feet is considered a bedroom. So this is something that would be eliminating that someone trying to, lack of a better word, getting cute and to get another extra bedroom as part of a unit. Or if it's not technically considered a bedroom, something that could functionally serve as a bedroom. I think those are some of the key provisions of the ordinance. Also, it goes on to clarify regarding, in the remainder of the township, garden apartments are not permitted except where they exist in the R3 and the M1 zones today. So any apartments that are going to potentially be built would be in the downtown at the densities proposed. And then also, instead of having provisions and numbers in two sections of the ordinance, when I was talking about cleaning up the ordinance, now most of all the provisions dealing with development are in the what we call the bulk table at the end of the chapter. And this is something historically, as your zoning officer has utilized the code, and I think it was the most efficient way to make the changes to the ordinance. And it's for that reason we try to place everything in that table for ease of use, and where things were duplicative, if I can say that correctly, we try to remove those double references and just have it in one place. So I'm not sure if I'm missing anything, Mayor.
But Mr. Ricky, I want to thank you for your hard work on rewriting this ordinance, along with Topology and their input, and Mr. Berry and his input. I think we have a better ordinance than we had previous. We've eliminated a lot of the issues that we've had in the past, and I think we're going to be better off, and we'll see how it works, and if we need to amend it further, we will.
Okay.
But thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for it.
Anybody else wish to be heard on this ordinance?
Tammy Rossi, 28 Colonial Terrace. Just curious, is it possible to include in this ordinance allowable condos versus apartments? I notice in Montclair they have beautiful mixed-use buildings with condominiums above, and I would think that perhaps that could benefit the town with regards to having true residents versus transients, and also from a tax revenue perspective.
Mayor, can I take that question?
Sure.
I don't mean to interject, but it's kind of a planning question. When you talk about condos and apartments, you're talking about form of ownership. and by a matter of law, even for affordable housing purposes, the courts have ruled that we cannot require that form of ownership to be either condo or rental. You can encourage it, incentivize it potentially, but historically, since the downturn to today, my experience as a planner, I'm in a number of towns, and I also do private testimony. I don't think until maybe this current year or the end of last year that I've seen a condominium project. It had to deal with the lending of the banks and how they were lending. It was very difficult to lend for condominiums. It may start to come back a little bit now, but that's speculation. It's more maybe talk to realtors and real estate agents about that. But historically, I'm not talking about Nutley, I'm talking about statewide, what's occurred as a result of the downturn and how banks have lended. And so that's just my 2 cents.
So Mr. Ricky, let me just see if I can clarify what you said or ask you to stay up at the mic. By ordinance, we couldn't do that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question, Mr. Ricky, too, if I may. When there was a lot of building going on in Nutley, we always tried to keep it to 1 bedroom because of the school situation and all that stuff. And after reviewing this, I see there's percentages of how many 2 bedrooms, how many 3 bedrooms. And, I talked to the mayor about that before. That's all COA obligations. I mean, we can't restrict the number of units, especially now we're dealing with our schools as far as bedrooms, even with the COA obligation.
The 3, regarding COA, that is a state rule. It's a UHAC, Uniform Housing Administration.
And what's the percentage?
It says that at least 20% of the affordable units have to be 3-bedroom. No more than 20% can be 1, and the rest are 2 bedrooms. And that's a matter of law.
And there's no way we can there's no way we could challenge that.
That's only for the COA, the affordable units. The other units, I mean, that's up to your purview.
So as far as when the affordable units are being built, that's when we have to follow that state law, is what you're saying is state law.
Yes, and that's throughout.
And there's no way that we could go to the state and appeal and talk about our schools and talk about what's going on in our town to try to plead that number down?
That's a really illegal question. I guess you can appeal anything. I have not heard of that being successfully done.
Okay. Thank you.
But there's no provisions in this ordinance for 1 or 2 bedroom. Okay. Anybody else wish to be heard on ordinance number 3414? Seeing none, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Move the ordinance with
Mr. Mayor, can we please do a motion to amend the ordinance first officially, vote on that, and then vote on yes or no?
If the mayor moves it, can I second it with the amendment, or do I introduce the amendment at that point, get a second, and then?
I would
we
introduce the amendment now, vote on the amendment, and then
And then-
vote on the public hearing, vote on the.
Okay, so after he introduces, then we present.
It's already been
the-
introduced.
So can I have a motion to amend the 28 units to 24 units?
I will make that motion to amend from 28 units per acre to 24 units per acre.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Move the ordinance.
Second?
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
As amended, aye.
Commissioner Evans?
As amended, aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
As amended, aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Public hearings, Commissioner Tucci.
Yes. As a requirement of filing a Green Acres application, I need to hold a public hearing this evening. I have as a resource with me tonight Sue Scavone from Millennium Strategies, our grants person. But what I'd like to do is just briefly outline what the project is. It would be removal and installation of a new synthetic track system up at Demuro Park, repairing and improving the long jump, the discus circle, the shot circle, and the pole vault box, in addition to refurbishing the tennis courts, fixing the cracks, new nets, relining, coloring of the courts, etc., and any ancillary site work that needs to be done. The amount of the application that I'm seeking authorization for this evening is $731,160. And again, that includes demolition, site improvements, repairs, improvements to everything I've just said. And it also includes Nutley Raiders in Lane 3 of the straightaway in striper standard form. That would be 75% of that total would be in a grant that comes to approximately $548,370, and the 25% match can either be in the form of a 0% loan from the state of New Jersey, all right, or hard cash in the amount of $182,790. Sue, did I miss anything? She's an excellent teacher.
Anybody who want to be heard on this resolution?
Tammy Rossi, 28 Colonial Terrace. I'm just curious, Commissioner Tucci, when was the last time the tracks were resurfaced?
It was resurfaced approximately 10 years ago.
And that's the anticipated
Right.
lifetime?
And that, it's like adding a layer of roofing to your home. All right, where we've maxed out on the amount of times we can just resurface. We're at the point now where we need to completely demolish and rip out everything that's there, put in a brand new subsurface, and then put the synthetic top on top of that.
Is there a newer technology that has a longer lifetime?
I'm sure they've improved it, but it's basically the same technology. You know, it's that super soft cushion fabric that they put down.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else wish to be heard in this resolution?
Michael Odrea, 133 High Street. Did I hear you correctly? This is going to cost $731,000?
That's our estimate, yes.
Is the town planning to offset the cost by cutting something else out to make what you want happen?
No, Michael, pay attention. $548,370. 75% of that would be a grant, all right? And the balance, the 25% match, could either be in a 0% loan that the state would give us in the amount of $182,790 or hard cash. We have never come up with hard cash in the 20 years that I'm sitting here. So my guess is we're going to take the 0% loan and pay that out over time. That's the total cost. And if you're familiar with DeMuro Park, you know that people are there from early in the morning till late at night, all right? In addition to our high school teams, all right, our recreation teams, and anyone else that would like to use it because it is a public park.
I mean, my question, I know it's a public park, but couldn't there be some kind of private company that would want to put up the money for this and use the park for their own investment? Advertisement?
Nice concept, and in fact, we actually investigated that, and we continue to investigate that. We've approached Adidas, we've approached Nike, and some of the other big names, all right, for funding for that, to give them naming rights, but quite frankly, we're not MetLife Stadium, so there's not a lot of interest in that right now.
Anybody else wish to be heard in this resolution?
Hi, Annalise Spence, 302 Harrison Street. I'm curious, and this may be a separate issue, but there's a little playground adjacent to DeMuro Park called Reinheimer, I believe. And I'm wondering if potentially there's a way to maybe share some of this grant with that playground by maybe possibly adding a fence, since it's on a very busy street, Bloomfield, or possibly updating the dog park, or something to make that also just a little bit better in addition to all of the sports equipment.
Right. Well, Reinheimer's, as you know, is on Bloomfield Avenue. DeMuro was on Margaret Avenue. All right,
I mean, they're
around.
close, but yeah.
They're relatively close, yeah. This application is specifically for DeMuro, but as part of our due diligence in the Parks Department, and I guess Frank DeMayo's here with me this evening, we're due for our annual tour of the parks to see what needs to be improved. And if you go to Boot Park, you can see where the playground area was. We spoke with some of the residents there, and we put up a low fence so that the little ones don't run into the street. So we look for those type of safety things and improvement issues. But if you have any ideas for Reinheimer Park, we'll be happy to listen to them. And if it's something we can do, we absolutely will.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else wish to be heard in this resolution? Let's move on to resolutions. Commissioner Tucci.
Thank you, Mayor. All I have to do is find it now. Okay, whereas the Department of Environmental Protection Green Acres Program provides loans and/or grants to municipal and county governments and grants to nonprofit organizations for assistance in the acquisition, development, and stewardship of lands for outdoor recreation and conservation purposes, and whereas the Township of Nutley desires to further the public interest by obtaining funding in the amount of approximately $548,370 in the form of a 75% matching grant, and if available, a 25% loan of approximately $182,790 from the state to fund the following project. Township of Nutley Demuro Park Improvement Project at an approximate cost of $731,160. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley resolves that Commissioner Mauro Tucci, Director of the Department of Parks and Public Property, is hereby authorized to A, make application for such a loan and or such a grant, B, provide additional application information and furnish such documents as may be required, and C, act as the authorized correspondent of the above-named applicant. And whereas the state shall determine if the application is complete and in conformance with the scope and intent of the Green Acres Program and notify the applicant of the amount of the funding award, and whereas the applicant is willing to use the state's funds in accordance with such rules, regulations, and applicable statutes, and is willing to enter into an agreement with the state for the above-named project, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute an agreement and any amendment thereto with the state known as Township of Nutley Demuro Park Improvement Project for upgrades and improvements to the track and tennis courts at Demuro Park, and 2, that the applicant has its matching share of the project if a match is required in the amount of $182,790. 3, that in the event the state's funds are less than the total project cost specified above, the applicant has the balance of funding necessary to complete the project. 4, that the applicant agrees to comply with all applicable federal, state, I guess my time's up, and local laws, rules, and regulations in its performance of the project. And 5, that this resolution shall take effect immediately. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco? Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
My second resolution this evening is a transfer, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that in accordance with the provision of RS 40A:4-59, the following transfer of 2018 appropriation reserves be and same are hereby authorized and approved. Department of Parks and Public Property from group insurance in the amount of $50,000 to economic development, other expenses, and a like amount of $50,000. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. Be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the treasurer be and she is hereby authorized to refund overpayments of tax charges in the amount of $3,327.32 for Block 2800, Lot 9. So move.
Second?
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Whereas the law firm of Inglesino, Webster, Wiscalla, and Taylor, 600 Parsippany Road, Suite 204, Parsippany, New Jersey, has been awarded a non-fair and open contract as a professional service as pursuant to the provisions of NJSA 19:44A, 20.4 and 20.5 as appropriate to provide special development counsel on January 2nd, 2018 by Resolution 4-18. Whereas such services have exceeded the original contract amount of $95,000. Whereas change order 1 was authorized on November 7th via Resolution 241-18 for an increase in the amount of $15,000 as such services have exceeded the amount of the original contract, and change order number 1. And whereas the Director of Revenue Finance has recommended the following additional change order from said contract. Change order number 2 provides special development counsel in the amount of $40,840. Whereas funds are available from account 801-226-205 and have been certified by the Chief Financial Officer, said certification being attached to this resolution. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley that change order number 2 in the amount of $40,840 is hereby approved. These fees are being spent in connection with the redevelopment of the Rose site, specifically for Phase 2A. Under our redevelopment agreement, once it is signed, these costs are fully reimbursable by the developer. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Petracco?
To save a little time, I'm going to just recap my resolutions. Resolution 50-19, authorized to sell abandoned personal property at a live auction Wednesday, April 10th, 2019 at 2 p.m. Twin Towing, Inc., 35 Mill Street in Belleville, New Jersey. This specifically is for a 2001 Jeep and a 2008 Honda. I move that resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Resolution 51-19, authorization to sell abandoned personal property vehicles at a live auction Wednesday, April 10th, 2019 at 10 a.m. Nicoletti Towing, 757-1000 Page Avenue, Lyndhurst, New Jersey. This one is for a 1998 Honda and a 2005 Cadillac. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Resolution number 52-19, authorized to advertise for sealed bids for surplus equipment no longer in use to be received and opened on Wednesday, March 6, 2019 at 11 a.m. I move the resolution.
Second.
This is for a 2000 Chevy Impala and a 2003 Honda Accord. I move it.
Second.
Okay, the bid date is March 13th, right? Wednesday, March 13th?
It is, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing Township of Nutley Office of Emergency Management to accept funds from a sub-grant award of the Federal Fiscal Year 2018 Emergency Management Agency Assistance Program funding and for the Chief Financial Officer of the Township of Nutley to amend the budget and certify that the available funds. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Whereas NJSA 9-41 requires that Emergency Management Council be formed to coordinate all disaster control activities on behalf of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey. Now therefore it be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, New Jersey, that William Cassidy be appointed to serve a 3-year term as Emergency Management Coordinator on behalf of the Township of Nutley, starting January 15th, 2019 through December 31st, 2022. Before I move this resolution, we did have a fine young man in that position, Captain Thomas Nicoletti from the Fire Department, for as long as I can remember, actually, who did a great job. He just retired. I know we all wish him well in his retirement. And I have to tell you, William Cassidy has big shoes to fill there, but he's a fine young man, and this is kind of the changing of the guard a little bit, and I wish Will a lot of luck and support in that role that he's going to be taking on. So I move that resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, New Jersey, that in accordance with provisions RS 48:4-59, the following transfers of 2018 appropriation reserves be the same and are hereby authorized and approved from Fire O&E, $140,000 to Fire Salary and Wage, $140,000. I move the
Second.
resolution.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Whereas raffle applications have been received from the following organizations: Nutley Music Boosters, license number 9-19, on-premise merchandise raffle, license number 10-19, on-premise 50/50 cash raffle, both to be held Saturday, March 23rd, 2019, and the Melissa A. Centrella Scholarship Fund, license number 11-19, on-premise merchandise raffle, to be held Saturday, May 4th, 2019. Whereas the applications have been reviewed and approved by the municipal clerk and the police department, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the aforementioned licenses are approved and the municipal clerk is authorized to issue the raffle license. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the Township Clerk is hereby authorized to advertise for sealed bids for CDBG Ernest Street roadway improvement project in the Township of Nutley to be received on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and Commission Chambers, Township Hall, 1 Kennedy Drive, Nutley, New Jersey, on Wednesday, March 13, 2019, at 11 a.m. prevailing time, at which time they will be open and read. And move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. I'm going to move this resolution by title. This is Resolution 5719, a resolution adopting the Employee Handbook and Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. That concludes the business portion of our meeting. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor.
Where's Rory?
All persons addressing the Board of Commissioners regarding community concerns should approach the microphone and provide their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the Board, each person shall limit their address to 5 minutes. All remarks to the Board and its individual members must be addressed to the Mayor. The Mayor may defer citizens' comments to the appropriate member of the Board. Dialogue between citizens and others addressing the Board shall be allowed unless the Mayor or presiding officer or the majority of the membership of the Board shall determine that the interests of decorum and/or the expeditious conduct of municipal business are being adversely affected by such dialogue.
Anybody wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Tammy Rossi, 28 Colonial Terrace. This is actually more of a public announcement to the citizens of Nutley. There will be an event planned on Tuesday, March 12th, 7 p.m. at the Nutley Public Library. It is an informational session on the New Jersey Open Public Records Act. And I want to thank Commissioner Tucci for agreeing to videotaping it and televising on the Nutley Cable Channel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners?
Maria Baza, 209 Highfield Lane. I'm just noticing that you gave a permit on Highfield Lane for another motorcycle run. Why do we have to use public streets for a motorcycle blessing? I'm not against the blessing of motorcycles, but why should it be done on a public street in a residential area? Do you know what 100 some odd motorcycles sound like when they take off? You're worried about noise pollution? I mean, this is the epitome of noise pollution. Try living across the street from it. I thought that we settled that last year. We discussed it, and I thought they weren't going to be allowed to have another permit.
I don't think, when did this get approved? It went through our office, Sam? Or- So who issued a permit?
I'm sorry?
Did somebody issue a permit for a motorcycle run? Because I don't remember seeing that.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said that I don't remember seeing that come across my desk where there was a motorcycle.
Well, it says it
Or
here.
did
You
you?
just voted on it a little while ago.
Oh, I thought you said it was coming across my desk. Yeah, I know that you have an issue with it, obviously, and it's a residential street. You know, the only thing I could really do is...
I mean,
we
they
could-
charge to have these motorcycles blessed. I think they're $25 each, and we have to give up a street for them to make money? They have a whole bunch of property on their in front of the
I
church.
remember...
Put the motorcycles on their property,
Put them on whose property?
on the church's property, instead of in the street, so that we have to be inconvenienced.
Well, I know that last year when we spoke about this, that, you know, I did talk to Commissioner Tucci about maybe moving it down Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And doing something like that, and I have to tell you, I've had a lot on my plate with personal issues, unfortunately, and I guess this did skip by me, but, you know, I will talk to Commissioner Tucci, and if it could be moved, or if maybe not this year, maybe next year, we could have that discussion.
Yeah, maybe you can come and clean up all the
I'm not
cigarette
coming to
butts.
clean up, I'm not coming to clean up
I don't
anything,
mean
I
you,
can
but
promise
mean,
you that.
You know, the town, with
Huh?
the cigarette butts that are on our lawn and everywhere else.
Listen, I know it's one day, and I know it's an
Yeah, but
inconvenience,
it's one
and
day, but it's really a grave inconvenience for the people who live there. And you're worried about, you know, the noise in the town? Come and stay there one day and just...
well, who's worried about the noise in the town? I don't
Well, you
get...
were talking about the, you know, extra, from, you know, more apartments and all the noise that it creates and all the additional vehicles.
Noise could in fact be one of the factors, not one of the ones I mentioned, but it could be one of the issues. Could be.
I mean, it really is not.
I understand, and I know
It's a
it's
nice
on
place
their,
to
on
have
their
that.
part, it's 1 day, it's 1 day a year. The church has been there
Yeah,
for
it's 1 day
100.
for that, and it's 1 day for something else.
I
and it's 1
understand.
day for
But you
something
know
else.
what? I will, and I apologize to you. I do have a lot of personal stuff going on in my life right now, but I will talk to Commissioner.
Excuse me,
Tucci.
Commissioner, if our facilities are available, we can absolutely use them. We'll just have to check, and if they're open to that, we would have no problem.
So
Okay.
I'll have,
Write that down.
I'll have Mrs. Carell reach out to them
Okay.
tomorrow, maybe we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay?
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
I used her bag.
My name is Braden Summers, 27 Stewart Avenue. I'm here today to continue our dialogue and efforts towards eliminating the use of single-use plastic bags and other harmful single-use plastics. The topic and awareness is growing momentum. I still feel strongly that as a town and community, we should commit to doing our part in the use of these harmful products. I had a table at the Winters Farmers Market, and in no more than 10 minutes' time, I was able to fill up a pole cart full of plastic trash along the river right behind Vincent United Methodist Church. 24 residents signed up to be a part of a residents forum to educate and eliminate the use of bags as well as harmful plastics, and I handed out over 70 reusable bags. Residents were coming up to me and sharing their relief and praise that Nutley is having conversations about this topic. The feedback, including comments from my survey, have been mostly positive. A few of the negative comments included complaints about taxes, but I'm not sure this has anything to do with additional taxes, but I deferred to you on that topic. Others said it's inconvenient, but I say too bad to inconvenience. The continued harmful effects outweigh inconvenience. One resident was concerned about how they would clean up after their dog or how they would dispose of their kitty litter if they couldn't get plastic bags from grocery and convenience stores. Well, I don't believe single-use plastic bags were invented with the intent to dispose of pet waste, or if banned, should be used as an excuse to not clean up after them. At the end of the day, although it's being reused, it's still ending up in our landfills and not getting recycled. That's not an argument for reuse. Same stands for those that say that they reuse them for their trash. The bags are made of harmful microplastics that end up in our food and waterways. All forms of non-compostable packaging should be removed from the waste stream. Some other feedback from opponents include concern about elderly residents. I have to say that my real-life experiences is quite the contrary. Actual conversations with those considered elderly were supportive, and I couldn't even give my bags away to them because they already had their own bag and even said that they had too many. They aren't most likely shopping for a family of 5 or 6 and don't need a lot to carry out a few items. One resident stated, "Unfortunately, this is Nutley and people here do not like change and they do not care enough to allow this to happen. I don't want to believe that, and I hope that you wouldn't want to prove them right." On the other hand, the majority of responses were supportive, so I can safely say to you that we are ready. Nutley is ready to be a bag-it town. Residents did respond with desire for more promotion, advertising, and education so that they know where and how they can voluntarily recycle. The Truck Stacking Company Community Partnership Program that I mentioned to Commissioner Evans seems to be something that could work. I made a call to the program director and will share that feedback with Commissioner Evans. Nothing is impossible if you have adequate education and promotion. A lot of people aren't even aware that they can drop their clean, unsoiled, used plastic bags back to ShopRite or that Nutley Family Service Bureau needs them for their food distribution. I am sure I could get support from other community-based organizations and retailers in Nutley. I have been invited to speak to the Rotary Club on Thursday night to continue to bring awareness and education on this topic. Mayor Scarpelli, I would like to recommend that Green Nutley look into a public screening of the movie Bag It. This is an award-winning documentary film that starts with simple questions about what plastics are made from, what happens to plastic bags after they are discarded. It looks beyond plastic bags and discovers that virtually everything contains potentially harmful chemical additives. The film exposes the effects of plastic on the environment and humans. The film has received multiple audience choice and best documentary films at film festivals across the country. The East Brunswick Library will be hosting the film on March 6th. I will email you information about the film and their screening toolkit. Now is the time to usher in a new wave of social responsibility. Our crazy for plastics world has caught up with us, and we need to take action today, right now.
Braden, can you give me the name of that movie again? Bag It? Thank you. Continue your efforts.
Yes, Braden, thank you. You're doing a marvelous job. I'm very impressed by your comments tonight, the structure of them. As you and I spoke, there are opportunities to come up with different ways to reuse a bag that's currently not being recycled or being put to good use, to find other uses for it. As you and I discussed, I'm organizing a meeting with business owners so that we can continue our discussion with them to see if we can come up with something that has balance, that helps the town take this step forward. But I'm 100% behind you. You know, it's a great job, and I can strongly congratulate you on the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Braden. Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening? Seeing,
Amy Salento, 70 Newman Avenue. At the last meeting, I was not able to attend, but there was an announcement that there's a settlement with the developer, Kenny Mecca. And if I heard correctly in the video, it was mentioned that the settlement information can be obtained by filing an OPRA. And in a prior meeting last year, I asked specifically if the settlement would be made public, and Commissioner Evans said that it would be. So, Mayor and Commissioner Evans, do you have any comments on that? I mean, I'm requesting transparency, and I believe other members of the community requested it as well at a prior meeting.
That really is, the need to file an OPA request is a standard policy we've adopted about every single document. So you can absolutely get it through an OPA request. I know you know how to do that. It's transparent. I don't know what else you're asking us to do.
Okay. I've never filed an OPA request, and I'm sure I can do it. I'm just saying that I asked specifically at a prior meeting, and it was indicated that once there was a settlement, it absolutely would be made public.
It is available, and people have requested it and received it, and you can too.
Okay.
And Amy, when we negotiated, we could negotiate on the terms that the settlement agreement would be available to the public. Sometimes settlement agreements are announced, but the document itself remains confidential. We wouldn't, so to my point to you when I made that statement, I stayed true to that because it's a public document. And
okay.
Following the procedure, though, you can obtain it through OPRA.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the Ciccolini building, at a prior meeting, I think maybe it was in December, there were funds approved. It might have been for topology in terms of a study on that property, which the town currently owns, for which there was a bond issued to pay for it. So is there timing? Is there a deadline, an expected delivery date of a report on the former Ciccolini building?
Ms. Lenta, that's an ongoing study of that property, but I would think you're going to see movement, probably maybe the next meeting, and how we're going to move forward with that.
Okay, thank you. It was announced an Essex County Community Development Block Grant of $156,800 was allocated to Nutley as part of a $5.5 million allocation from Essex County Community Development Block Grants. So is there a plan for the $156,800 Community Development Block Grant allocated to the Township of Nutley recently?
I think there's two projects, the roadway project, and Commissioner Tucci has a project too, I think.
And that's in what building?
Public safety. Sorry, yes, it is public safety, yeah.
And that serves the community, or does it just serve the department? I'm just curious.
It serves both the community and the...
Okay, so anybody coming for the court or would
Anybody.
access that building,
Yeah.
of that bathroom? Thank you so much.
Believe it or not, we even have people walk off the streets to use our bathrooms
Okay,
there. Yeah.
thank you. The employee handbook that was approved tonight, I guess, will that be published, made available in the library, or how will that be? Does that have to be Oprah'd?
It has to be Oprah.
Okay, and maybe in advance of the Oprah, can you just indicate, is there an anti-nepotism policy? Is there a conflict of interest policy and screening process? Either or?
Yes,
Either or both?
both.
Okay. And then annual reviews, is that something that's going to be implemented, or that's part of this annual performance
It's part of the
reviews?
overall plan with our insurance company that we do every year.
So that means that performance reviews will be implemented in all departments, not just public safety?
Well, listen, I mean, the requirement of it's not an absolute law requirement to have a performance evaluation. It's practice that the commissioners are they run their own departments, and I'm sure that they'll be taking that into consideration. This handbook and policy does address that, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
This is just a PSA, Michael Odrio, 133 High Street. On the February 27th Planning Board meeting, the meeting that is open to the public, there is going to be a public hearing for new apartments on 74 East Passaic Avenue. And what I'm about to say is this. Since our boards might be allowing another developer come into our town and make their money, the trade-off should be, if this is going to be allowed, again, on more, in my opinion, school-level overcrowding apartments, the trade-off should be, if they're allowed to make money in our town, these developers, the trade-off should be that we homeowners consider giving us a property tax reduction. Because the developers in this town who come to our town should not be the only ones making money. That's just my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Odria. Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening? Seeing none, can I have a motion
Move to adjourn.
Before we do, Mayor, I have an issue I want to bring up to this board. This Board of Commissioners, as well as probably every governing body in the state of New Jersey, is going to be challenged with something. And that challenge is going to be the legalization of marijuana. Now, I am absolutely in favor of the use of marijuana for medical purposes, but very opposed to the use of marijuana for recreational purposes, which leads me to this. And Counselor, this is probably something you will have to get involved in. I'm thinking along the lines that we might have to look at an ordinance that will restrict the sale of marijuana for recreational purposes within a certain distance of a school or of a learning facility. I have very deep concerns, just based on my experience in this police department for 38 years, that the sale of marijuana within reach of our children could bring problems for the police department and parents. So it's just something I'm asking that we be proactive and think about how we're going to handle this. I don't know, Counselor, if we could legally do this because it's going to be legal, but I know that there are establishments in Nutley that are already selling or at least storing the bongs, the smoking devices and the other paraphernalia, and they're getting ready. But my concern is, I know there are stores very close to some of our schools, and
Commissioner,
there might be a
if I could just comment on that. I was actually at an event where I saw Senator Ronald Rice, who I think is one of the best senators ever, but he's very opposed as well in his neighborhoods that he represents. And I had a long discussion with him, Alan, about getting ahead of this too. So it's a really good thing that you brought this up, because me personally, I don't want to see that in our town either. If it's for medical purposes, I get that, and I actually know people that are on it, but just to have a free hand in that. So maybe we could look into that together and see how we get ahead of that.
So just, if I might add, in the fall at the league, there was an excellent session regarding legalization of recreational marijuana, and there's at multiple levels. My understanding is that the state will need to act on it first to make it lawful if they were to choose to do that. But there is an expectation, from what I understand, that once they adopt it, prepare the set of rules and regulations and how it would be administered, that we as a municipality will have the ability then to opt in or opt out, and whether or not we would allow it. So I've been following this, the progress of this. I agree with you. Marijuana is a gateway drug. There's a lot of history around that. In a world where there's so much advertisement out there which is saying stop smoking because it's bad for you, where alcoholism is considered an addictive illness, and now we're looking at something that is addictive as well. So I do think there's a lot to be researched on this. I'm with you. I agree that we need to take a very clear and hard position on this. There is a question that I've already asked Dave Berry, our construction official, to look at in our code, that looking at this paraphernalia. And there was one store, there's an address that was given, I think, for Washington Avenue, where someone was advertising that they were going to open up a place. Steve, you shared that?
Yeah, that was actually, I believe it was on Franklin Avenue?
Yeah, I can't remember the address.
Yeah.
But in our code, we currently do not have any provision of our code that allows this use.
And to your point, too, about the use of it, keep in mind that the marijuana brownies, they're going to put this, the CDB oil and other marijuana TCP stuff in gummy bears. Kids eat this stuff. So it's something that, I think we're just to be a little proactive, and I'm glad, Commissioner, you're looking at that. And
yeah,
it's just a concern I think we have to address.
And another thing, too, while we're on this safety issue, too, about our children, too, I've been spending a lot of time in New York hospitals speaking to many doctors of what causes this and that. These vapes that not every kid, but a lot of kids are taking, there hasn't been any really clinical trials or studies on all that stuff of what it's causing, but there are some things that are coming out with that to prove that that's not, a direct answer to not smoke cigarettes, and it's okay to vape also. So, I don't know what they're doing in other towns about that as well, but vaping, like, children should be really, really, should really think about doing these vapes, because, as I've been in these hospitals speaking to a lot of these doctors, a lot of stomach issues and ulcers, I were told, obviously lung issues because of this smoke. So, it's not a cigarette, but for some reason everybody thinks that, vaping is okay.
And Commissioner Petracco, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is I know this is televised, and a lot of people watch this, a lot of parents watch us, and I know that you have a LEAD program, all right, that I understand has been very, very successful. So can you just briefly, because it's important now, because this is an issue that really concerns a lot of residents, just to talk to that, what you're doing in the schools right now, which is kind of ahead of the game. Okay.
Well, I just want to weigh in a little bit on this marijuana, because I was at a presentation by an addiction person, and we'll be the only state in the nation that approves this legislatively and not by vote, which is interesting. Two, in Colorado, the minimum amount of THC in the state facilities is 35%. It's a minimum, not a maximum, it's a minimum. to drive people from buying on the street to have them pay the taxes, which leads that this is a money grab. It's all about money. And it's not about the good of our communities, the good of our children, and the good of all the citizens. And I think the legislators really need to look at this in a broad spectrum to understand what the dosage is going to be, how close to the schools they're going to be, the cost in enforcement, traffic accidents, traffic pullovers. How do we measure somebody? You can measure when someone has alcohol in their blood. You can measure also if they have THC in their blood, but it could be there for up to 30 days. So there's no way of knowing if they were impaired other than sobriety tests. So challenges in court are going to be tremendous amount of on our municipal court. So I think there's a lot of costs that are involved that are going to outweigh the taxable issue on the state side. So I hope the legislators are really going to examine this a little bit more closely than they have so far, because I don't see that that's been done.
And to that point, whatever number the state is attaching as a tax, right now they're only considering allowing municipalities to attach a 2% tax, which isn't nearly enough to deal with the public affairs, health-related issues, the additional police work that's required, the court that has to be required, and everything else that's part of this. So I think there's a lot that needs to be discussed, and again, this is I think a good topic to have a public discussion around once we get clear on the direction of where the state is going to go.
Thank you, Mayor.
Have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci? Aye. Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
The time is
Good night,
9:16.
everybody.